and we made it work. We figured it out, but it was not without much heartache and angst and like, do we just stop? Right. And I'm like, no, I'm not someone that throws in the towel. We are going to figure this out. That's how businesses are made. Successful businesses, someone somewhere made a difficult decision, put in the time and effort to figure it out.
I think for folks listening that are maybe in the earlier stages and going through some of the adversity, or just stick with it. Just let time do its thing. But you mentioned in your video on your website, which is really cool, that you talked about grit and scrappiness. So can you make it more visceral for us? Can you recall or tell me about a time in your business? Is there anything that stands out of when you had to show grit and be scrappy, and like what was the challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, great question. So I love both of those words. They're two of my favorites, grit and scrappiness. I just feel like, that's how businesses are made. Successful businesses, someone somewhere made a difficult decision, put in the time and effort to figure it out. And so I always want to be that person. And I tell my franchisees that too. Like, we are the guides, right? We're on a safari. We know the path. We've been there before. We know what's hard. We know what's easy. We're here to guide you through it, but you've got to put in the work, right? You're finding your local talent and you're training your talent. And, we're going to be there with you through construction, but you're going each week to check on it. So I think it's great for franchisor and franchisee, any business individual, non-franchise, right? To have that grit and scrappiness. One is the building that we were in New York City was sold unexpectedly. So here we are. This was back in 2016. We'd already started franchising. We were on this 5,000 square foot floor of a building. And when I signed a lease in 2010, I didn't know what to look for. And we didn't have covenant that protected us in the sale of a building that our lease would live on. So the new landlord came to us and said, hey, we've bought this building and your rent is going to be X. And it was a factor of like 3 times what we had been paying. Probably more market than I had been paying. I came into, a gentleman that inherited the building and had been in it for a long time. And I kind of looked at my husband. I was like, yikes, this just came out of nowhere.
300% rent increase is what they were proposing.
Yep. And it was like a brand new lease from scratch. It wasn't even they would take over the new one. It was like, here are the terms of our lease. And so we really had to say, okay, are we going to do this? And we had to look hard and say, okay, how are we going to make up this difference? What are we going to do for the business? How can we lean more on different kinds of events that maybe were more profitable, but we hadn't pushed as hard? We pounded the pavement again. We're like, maybe we'll move. We'll have to rebuild again. But it was maybe a span of 30 days. It wasn't long. That we had to decide. And we pushed through. We ended up staying. We signed the lease. We decided, no, we want to be here. We signed a 10-year lease, renewed. And we made it work. We figured it out. But it was not without much heartache and angst and like, do we just stop? Right? And I'm like, no, I'm not someone that throws in the towel. We are going to figure this out.
If you enjoyed this short clip from the podcast, you can check out another short clip right here. Or if you want to watch the full episode of this podcast, you can watch that here. And remember, knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.